I'm going to go ahead and click this to enable me on Instagram as well. Let's see how well that goes over. Sometimes it works pretty well, and sometimes it does not work well at all. It's, let's see, here's my mic. If I'm going this way, Instagram puts me in this weird frame over here. So I guess it's only going to be half of my face today. But, I don't know. I wish there was a way to move it around a little bit. And I think that'd be pretty cool. So we're going to go ahead and click that button, go live on Instagram, see what happens over here. Look, it says I'm going live. Waves with Wireless Nerd. Fantastic. Drew in the morning. Wireless Nerd is live. Oh, hey, I'm a nerd. What's up? Anyway, good afternoon, everyone. I hope you had a happy new year. I took the week off last week, unannounced, first year podcasting and doing all this stuff. So just, bear with it, I guess. It was what a week, man. Holidays were nuts. The whole holiday season has been pretty incredible. Lots of things going on, family and friends and people, and too much of this and not enough of that and not enough sleep. And, it's been a hectic couple of weeks. Either way, now it is January 4th. Things are starting to get back to some semblance of normal. Got a lot of work done this morning. Saw a bunch of stuff coming across from the work side. But I thought, what better day than today to make sure that I get Waves with Wireless Nerd done for you all, my loyal listeners, all 17 of you, or however many it is today. The first big milestone for me, fantastic. I appreciate it. The last podcast had 100 downloads, so super excited about that. I appreciate it. Don't know who you are, but I'm glad that you are listening to it. Hopefully, it's imparting some different perspective on what you do. Don't know if there's any wisdom in there or not, but at least it's giving you something you may not have heard about. And that was fascinating to me, that whole concept of something that you hadn't heard about. I was watching a video with my son. I'm a big fan of Mr. Beast, first of all, so love Mr. Beast. And one of the things that he was talking about was he has a whole group of people who go out and find things that he has never heard about to keep his information diet full. And I hope that at least, I try and mention little things here and there. They're just random and odd, because the stuff that you don't know about can inspire you in so many different ways. So hopefully you hear something that might inspire you here on our trusty little program. Speaking of our program, I do want you to take note. Next week is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a lot of fun, but a little different. What we're going to do is we're going to be broadcasting live from CES. So I get out there on Monday. I'll be out there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday. And at CES, we're going to try and do this live broadcast, not just for Waves, but we're working with Unplugged Connectivity, which is a channel specifically about wireless. And it's done by a bunch of different employees from Cisco, and they got together and put this thing out there. And we've decided to team up, and we're going to go live. Since I'm going to be at CES, I'm going to look for different things and the way that they impact the wireless industry. They sent me some really cool microphones, so I'll hopefully be able to get some interviews with some people. I've got a couple of friends that have already said that they want to stop by and do a quick interview, so that's going to be neat. So next week, we're going to make the announcement. It's probably going to be on the 11th. We were going to do it at 10 in the morning on the 10th. The problem is that's only the first day of the show, so I'm not really sure how much I'm going to see. So I might go live then, but I'll probably also or only go live on the 11th, which will be a week from today, and hopefully I'll have seen enough of the show to understand really what's happening. Lots of really great things I'm interested in seeing at CES. I know, the announcement, there hasn't been a Windows 12 announcement, but there's a lot of talk about what Windows is doing and with AI and how the chipset manufacturers are getting behind them. And the whole thing is revolving around processing of AI on the machine itself. And so I know that there's going to be this whole AI thing happening at CES. I'm not really sure which direction it's going to be coming from. NVIDIA's talking about some new chipsets that they're going to release, that there's rumored to be releases out there. Lots of phone, stuff that's happening out there. So I'm curious to see what the AI message coming out of CES is going to be. Obviously, there's going to be some cool TVs and some dishwashers and everything else. And if you're going to CES, or if you've never been to CES, or if this is your first year going to CES, what I would say is one of my favorite parts of the entire show isn't at the Vegas Convention Center. It's actually at the Sands Convention Center at the Venetian. It's basically the basement. And if you've ever been there for any event, AWS was just there, and HP has their Discover event there, and there's all these events that happen there at the Venetian. I think Cisco does some stuff there as well. If you know where the meals are, where the cafeteria normally is on that first floor down like in the basement of the Venetian, that is one of the most incredible places in all of CES. What they do there is it's all the countries that have sponsored their pavilions and brought a whole bunch of entrepreneurs over to talk about their products and put them in place, and you get to see stuff that is the utmost forefront of technology, and that's basically happening on one side. On the other side, it's all the people that want to go to CES to make the connections, but I'm assuming the booths are less expensive there because it's all the really, really, really early startups, and so it's a really fun place to go if you're trying to look for something that's new or innovative or something that's going to spark some creativity. That is a really good place to go. It's one of my favorite places to go. I had ignored it for a couple of years, and then my business partner came up. He goes, "Drew, you gotta go check this out, man." And we went down there, and it was insane. So if you're going to CES, or if you're looking for an excuse to go, that bottom floor of the Venetian, it is awesome. It is totally, totally awesome. You get all the big stuff at the convention center, the cars, and I don't know what's happening there. They've been talking about flying cars and flying taxis for a couple of years, and I think we're just starting to see some of that come out. But I'm really keen on understanding what's happening in the wireless world, especially since so much of the connectivity that's providing access to all these consumer electronics is going to be based on wireless. So that's what I'm going to be doing out at CES. We're going to go live. Waves with WirelessNerd and Unplugged Connectivity, those two podcasts coming together for one. It's going to be really, really cool. I can't wait to do that. It's going to be the first cross promo, if you will. So I'm really excited. Anyway, so on to a couple of different things that are happening new now and next. I'm not going to use an excuse that it was the holidays, but it was a holiday, so I'm not really sure what all was happening. A couple of things that popped into my head that I thought were pretty interesting is, number one, on LinkedIn, lots of moves. Seeing lots of moves in the industry. And I think, what happens. You notice that your network gets updated pretty frequently, but it seems like we're in a season right now, a season of change, and there's a couple of things happening. One of the ones that take note that I looked at, and I'm not saying this has anything to do with anything, is I saw a couple of key people from Cambium Networks leaving and moving to other locations, and I thought that was interesting. I also saw some people coming over to Cisco who hadn't been there in a while. It's been really interesting to watch who's bouncing around from place to place. There were some, and again, it's all in your bubble, right? It's who you've worked with or who you've worked for, but definitely cool to see some changes happening. I'm celebrating my 1-year anniversary with the new organization, so that's pretty cool. It's been a fun year, but I love seeing where people are going on LinkedIn, especially people that I know, because that opens up opportunity for everyone, and not just like job opportunity, right? But opportunity where you get to help them, or maybe they get to help you, and finding new things to uncover to help, make sure that all of us are continuing to grow in our careers. So people moving around the industry was number one. I flagged that as new. Number two, I thought this was pretty cool. I'm using a Canon G7X here that I'm trying to dial in with the focus, but it works pretty well. And I've noticed there was a news article that came out about camera companies who are looking to fight the rise of AI generated images by embedding digital fingerprints and digital signatures into their photos. And so this was a really cool article talking about how Nikon, for instance, plans to start offering mirrorless cameras with authentication technology built in for photojournalists and other professional photographers. The technology is going to include tamper-resistant digital signatures that have the date, the timestamp, when the photo was taken, where the photo was taken, and who the photographer was. So a really cool way to check the authenticity of digital imagery. And that is just like, there's a whole other podcast I do with my wife where we talk about what's going on in the world and being a parent and fake news and, what is fake and how much of it's generated, and being able to make sure that the imagery that you're seeing is authentic imagery. It's not AI generated, I think is going to be something that's coming up in the future. So I'm interested to see if any of that is going to be talked about this year at CES, but I think it's a step in the right direction. And this says a group of news organizations, camera makers, and technology companies have joined together to create a web tool called Verify for checking the authenticity of images for free. If the image has a digital signature, the site will display the date, location, other credentials for the image. So I think that's pretty cool. So again, that's also in the news section. And this one's kind of tongue-in-cheek. In the news section, a new access point was introduced yesterday or day before. I saw that it popped up on my news feed. Ubiquiti has introduced a brand new Wi-Fi 5 access point. You heard me correctly. They introduced a new Wi-Fi 5 access point, which is fantastic considering that 7 just started getting a ratification. So I'm not sure what the play is there. Maybe they had some old chips they're trying to get rid of, but they've introduced a new AP based on technology from 3 years ago. So never take a chance to stop and reread something. We'll see where that goes. It's IP67 rated for indoor or outdoor use, which is kind of cool. It can be used with either one, but don't understand the move with Wi-Fi 5. Would love to see a comment on why Wi-Fi 5 was chosen for this new AP announcement. And the other thing, it's called the Swiss Army knife access point or something like that. Isn't there? I'm wondering if there's like a trademark infringement, or Is there something out like, can you call something a Swiss Army knife? Like, can that be the actual product name? Anyway, it's a little bit early for April Fools, but I definitely, that had some strong April Fools vibes around it. Wi-Fi 5 in 2024. Called the Swiss Army knife. Well, okay. I guess that works. Anyway, so that's what I have for new. What's going on now? Have you have you seen the neighbor? This is my note to myself at 3:00 in the morning. Have you seen the video of the neighbor who's asking for the Wi-Fi password, saying that the neighbor was being unreasonable when they broadcast outside of their walls? I thought that this was such a cool video, and I'll put it up on my Instagram, on the Wireless Nerd Instagram. It seems like it's a joke, and I watched it for far too long. I don't think I got all the way to the end before I was just face palming so hard. But essentially, this neighbor goes over and is having a conversation with his younger neighbor over their Ring doorbell or whatever it is, and he's saying, "Hey, you put a password on your Wi-Fi, and I think you're being unreasonable. Once your Wi-Fi leaves your walls, it's property of the public. So don't lock it down. It's outside. It's for public consumption." And the person was trying to explain, no, it's still my Wi-Fi. I broadcast it. And the guy says, well, then just lock your doors tighter and make sure that your Wi-Fi doesn't leave your windows, because as soon as it gets outside, then it's in the public domain. And, and you should give me your password because I've been using it for so many years. And it's a phenomenal video. But again, from the idea of different perspectives on things. There's I feel like there's something there, and I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's something there about once you broadcast outside of your walls, then is it public? I mean, it sounds so dumb to even question it, but I think that's the part to me that I think is fascinating. It's like this person's really, really was adamant about the fact that once your signal leaves your four walls or your physical area, then it's in the public domain, password protected or not password protected. And man, it really got me thinking about where you're broadcasting, how you're broadcasting. I have a box sitting behind me on the floor that's been sitting there for a really long time, and it's a cybersecurity analysis tool for wireless networks. And I know they sent it and I haven't set it up yet, and it makes me think about what the future is going to be for people that are attacking wireless networks. And the example that they use is that what they it's like when you had the war and everyone's running toward each other with bayonets on the end of their rifles, and they're they're getting ready to fight, and then all of a sudden this airplane flies overhead and drops bombs. And that's everyone's looking at the person in front of them, everyone's looking at the attack that they see. What they're not looking at is the attacks that they don't see, and how much security is happening where you're protecting what you don't see. And there's a great class coming up. There's a Flipper Zero class coming up at WLPC, and Flipper's been running advertisements all over the place, which has been really interesting. I had a friend of mine send me a message last night saying, hey, have you ever heard of this? It's so fascinating that Flipper is mass marketing this, but at the same time, you've got senators and congresspeople who are like, we need to shut this down because of the amount of attacks that you can do with this tool. It's really scary. And if you look at how that's proliferating, the security industry, I'm interested to see what DEF CON is going to look like this year, and the amount of wireless security vulnerabilities and wireless security attacks that take place. Because if you think about every traditional organization, IT organization, whatever it is, they're not necessarily looking at what's happening in the air. They're looking at what they think is happening. So yeah, you get spectrum analyzers, 2 gig, 5 gig, 6 gig, no big deal. But what about the person who's out there just blanket, carpet bombing the wireless space, if you will? I did this demo at a B-Sides conference here locally, where I did what's referred to as RF painting or spectrum painting. And if you haven't done that, it's really fun. You take a hack RF and you do some stuff to it, and you make it, draw a design in the spectrum. It's pretty neat. I took like some dictator photo and put it on there because it just looked, menacing. But what happens when people are coloring outside the lines and doing things that they're not supposed to be doing? I mean, that's like an attack, right? They're not attacking where you think they're going to attack. This is the whole, you wear a suit of armor to make sure when the person attacks you, they don't knife you in the chest. But what happens when they, chop your legs out from underneath you? We're, as an industry, wireless needs to do more to really spread and evangelize about what can be done from the wireless perspective, and how if all you're doing is you're monitoring ports and you're monitoring network, resources and everything else, so that's good. That's good. Don't get me wrong. But what are you doing to protect yourself from wireless attacks? Hang on, let me show you something. because this box, look, let me show you. I mean, might as well, right? This is the New Year's special. All right, let me see what I got here. This is a pretty fun box. Let's see. So there's all these little sensors, right? You place these sensors all over the place, and they're basically, all they are listeners, all they are ears and eyes, and they all call back across your network. They all communicate with each other, and they mesh with each other, and they call back into each other to make sure that they can hear what's going on, and they report what's going on in the RF spectrum. I got like a whole box of these. Look at this. Look at this. There's like 10 of them. I think they sent me like 10 of them. Anyway, so take all these sensors and you deploy them everywhere, and then once you deploy them, you make sure that they can all hear each other, and then they report back, and they run the entire gamut of the spectrum, right? So if someone's trying to attack a door system, or they're trying to attack Wi-Fi, and the thing that they like to talk about is that what you do, and I keep saying they, because I forgot their name. That's how long I've had that box, and I'm going to look them up right now, and they just face-palmed real hard, but I'm going to find it out, and I'm going to share it with you. It's more fun if I forget the name, I guess. So bad at this, man. This is why people don't send me all the free stuff, right? You need to send a big sign that says what it is, but unfortunately when they send those sample units, there was no label on them that I was looking for. But basically, before I look it up, let me keep explaining it. Basically what they do is they talk about how if you get on Shodan, which there's an API there's a CLI for Shodan, I learned this week. I had no idea. Anyway, you get on Shodan and you find some vulnerability in a printer, for example, and that printer sits across the street from a bank. And what you do is you find out that if you can get into that printer, because it's on Shodan, you come in through the back door and that printer has a wireless chipset, then you can use the wireless chipset in the printer to attack the bank across the street over wireless. Instead of going into the bank and attacking from the network side, you do it from across the street. And so the same, if you get on Shodan, and if you don't know what Shodan is, congratulations, you just learned something that's going to take care of you for the next couple of hours while you look up your city's facilities and everything that are out there. Shodan gives you the ability to find vulnerabilities of things that are not vulnerabilities, but they show devices that are connected to the public internet. So think about IoT devices that are publicly connected, that aren't firewalled, that aren't blocked, and Shazam, now you have access to all these different devices, and you can find out which ones are listed and compare them to lists of vulnerabilities to see what's going on. And this is a huge thing, because it gives you the ability to understand what's happening in the IoT world, and then how do you leverage that to use that as an attack against something that you're trying to break into, right? And we need to understand this, because if this is happening, we need to know how to protect this. And if you're not looking at the airwaves outside of 2.4 or 5 gig or 6 gig or 900 megahertz, if you're not looking wider, then maybe you're not seeing everything that's happening. So give me a second. Let me dig up the name of the security company. Oh, where is it? Securing the air, blah, 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 blah. I got to find it. Man, I feel so bad. If you're listening and you know me and you know what the company is, man, please save me from myself sitting here getting into trouble with people that are super nice. Let's see. Nope, not list. Nope, hasn't listed yet. Oh my goodness. It's called, is it AirEye? I think it's AirEye. I didn't want to mess it up, but I'm pretty sure it's AirEye. Hold on. Yes, I was right. It is AirEye. Okay, good. So check out AirEye, AIREYE. This is pretty interesting, man. Those were some early devices of AirEye. And if you look up AirEye on the internets, there's a really cool video that basically describes exactly what I was talking about. This is there's some great people that have gone over here. I see I'm clicking on their LinkedIn to see who's following them. Francois is following them. Shane, anything Francois follows, shout out to Francois. If Francois is following them, you know that you're already behind the times if you follow after Francois. If you find a company that you're following that Francois is not following, dude, like, you're doing good. A little bit of love there for my buddies over on the other podcast, the Clear to Send podcast, by the way. So I'm trying to see who all is over here. It's, people you may know. There's some, I can't remember. God, you're going to kill me, right? I can't remember who it was that went over there, but there was someone that I knew in the industry that moved over here. And I was like, man, if that person's making that move, then it's going to be pretty good. Anyway, as I ramble, feel free to go check them out. LinkedIn.com/company/AirEye, AIREYE, or look them up online, aireye.tech, and you can find out more about this information, more information about this product. I think it's really, really cool. cool. But again, that started with me looking at this video of a neighbor saying, hey man, you're being unreasonable, share your Wi-Fi. These are the types of reasons that I go to CES and I go to NRF and I go to all these different shows, is to find something that sparks fascination. And I hope that for the new year, you all find things that spark fascination, such as the drug cartels in Michoacan. Did you guys hear about this? The drug cartels have set up their own Wi-Fi service, and they have enforcers going around the town to get people to sign up to their wireless ISP. And that's how they're making money. Roughly 5,000 people have been forced to pay exorbitant fees by a drug cartel to use their makeshift internet service. And then what they were doing is they were going and knocking down towers from like Telmex and all these other places. So they were taking down any of the incumbents and making it so you could only use their wireless service in Michoacan. So that was pretty interesting. In other international news, the U.S. intelligence officials have determined that the Chinese spy balloon, remember that spy balloon last year that flew over? It was connected to a U.S. internet service provider, and that's how it was communicating information back. Now, it's up in the air which one it was, but funny enough, there's only a few that it could be. So that was pretty fascinating. Anyway, that was interesting to see that. And then in other news about being up in the air, SpaceX launched the first 6 Starlink satellites that will provide cellular transmissions for customers of T-Mobile and other carriers. So we're getting close to no dead zones, I guess, is what the key is there. But speaking of, let's move out of RF and let's talk about something interesting in a different space but similar. RGB OLEDs could push light-based Li-Fi network speeds to 100 times Wi-Fi's limit, research shows. Now, this is interesting because when Li-Fi first started out, it was like, oh man, this is kind of weird. They're changing they're cycling the lights very rapidly and very quickly to transmit data over the lights, similar to fiber optics, but in free space, right? So it was like, okay, I can see that. But then, the early test shows these lights that you didn't see them blinking, but you could kind of see them blinking, and you're like, man, that's got to be pretty annoying. Well, now not only, they've gotten past that to where you're not able to tell if the lights are even, blinking, because they're doing it on different visible light frequencies. And so now, using RGB OLEDs in place of a single color lighting, a key issue with interference and visible light, Li-Fi networking has been addressed. So now they're saying that using the full spectrum and using only specific frequencies or specific visible light frequencies in that spectrum, that this is going to make it almost 100 times faster than Wi-Fi. Now, I know what you're thinking, and this is the first thing that I thought, right? It's like, man, but what happens to everyone who's using Wi-Fi when the lights are off? And that's kind of one of those questions where it's like, well, how often are you working with the lights off, But, I guess, in the middle of the night, sitting down on your tablet or whatever, or, doing some work. But normally you're in an office space, and it is what it is. And if it means that your computer has to be able to see the light, or your phone has to be able to see the light in there to get some high-speed connectivity, then that's an interesting thing. But Li-Fi, it seems like it's been the next biggest thing for almost 20 years, and this is interesting, 100 times the speed. So we'll see where that goes. Don't know if there's going to be demos of that at CES, but we'll see. In other news, Firefly Green Fuels, a company based in Bristol in the UK, has successfully demonstrated the development of an aviation fuel made from human waste. I'm not bullshitting you. Human waste. Those are the company's claims. Independent tests by regulators in the aviation industry have also found the newly developed fuel is identical to that used in jet engines. And that is what's next. I've covered what's now. I've covered what's new. I've covered what's next. And I've talked way too long about rambling and having fun. But definitely, I think the moral of the story is be aware of what's going on in the atmosphere around you, not just what's going to attack your wireless networks from where you think it's coming from. But now with the advent of Li-Fi, and that coming into the market, who knows who knows what those threats and attacks are going to look like? Laser beams, I don't know. But I hope that whatever you do, I hope you have a wonderful year. I hope that you had a fantastic holiday spread coming into the new year. We've got CES coming up, NRF coming up. Again, we're going to be live at CES. Might come to you live from NRF. We're going to be having a really, really good time there, building out a fully functional restaurant in the basement of NRF and showing how wireless works within the restaurant and the retail sector. So that's going to be pretty cool. But I I hope you have a wonderful year. I hope that you feel inspired. Maybe not by this show. Maybe you laughed. Maybe you didn't laugh. Maybe I do inspire you. I hope I do. But I hope that you find inspiration in the most uncanny places to help you do your job better. And I hope that even when you're doing your job fantastically, I hope to see you on LinkedIn contributing to people's success and watching them move around. So with that being said, that is Waves for the first week in January 2024. I'll be coming at you live next week from CES. Have a wonderful weekend.